Hello guys, and welcome to the first in a series of videos all about installing and setting up Microsoft's Flight Simulator X Steam Edition. For those of you that are regular viewers to my Twitch stream, you'll know that I've had some significant computer problems for quite some time. I actually went and updated to Windows 10, and although FSX kind of worked, I could not get all of my Saitek hardware working correctly all at the same time. Sometimes one device would work and then reboot the PC and that device would not work and others would work, and in the end it became such a headache that I basically reverted back to Windows 7, which kind of left lots of Windows 10 stuff all around the place. So FSX in the end didn't really run that well, so I then did a total format clean hard drive, reinstalled Windows 7 from scratch, and here I am, and now complete fresh install of FSX once again. And because I'm doing this, I sort of suggested it on stream that should I do a set of videos all about setting it up right from scratch and then installing all of the various add-ons that I personally use. And it seemed to go down pretty well, and people said, yep, okay, go for it. So this is what I'm doing. So right now what you're looking at, besides the browser in the background, which I'll come to in a second, what you're looking at is Flight Sim X. In fact, just to avoid confusion, let me just get rid of the browser a second and everything behind it. There we go. That's a bit cleaner, isn't it? You can see what I'm looking at now. So I have actually installed FSX Steam Edition, literally gone to Steam, clicked the install button and then booted it up for the first time. What I'm going to show you is the settings or the changes that I've already made. Okay. So if you go to the settings tab, let's just start with these settings on the right hand side, and again this is all personal preference, but this is how I have my own setup configured. So the volume levels for a start, I've got the engines whacked up right to the right hand side at 100%, cockpit levels at about 3/4 volume, and the environment and the voice around about halfway. I've turned off the music because that gets on my nerves personally, although you may very well like it. But I've turned off the music, and I've also turned the interface sound, you know, the annoying click when you click on any buttons, etc. I've turned those off as well. So that's the sound. Controls I haven't yet touched because we're going to go into setting up the hardware in another video, or at least maybe perhaps even later on in this one, depends how long it is. I haven't decided that yet, but we'll look at controls a little later. The same goes with realism. We'll look at that once we start to actually fly. All we're concerned with at the moment is getting things up and running and getting it working to what I would consider a playable level and a decent level. So if we go into general, a couple of changes here I think. One is I've unticked pause on task switch. Now that's a very useful setting. What that does is if you happen to tab out of FSX for whatever reason when you're playing it, what happens generally, if that's ticked, it will do what it says on the tin. It will pause FSX. You will no longer be flying. That can be a bit annoying if you're running something, or if you've got any charts open, for example. If you're using one PC and you've got some flight charts open, maybe on a different window, or you've got a notepad or anything at all, a map you might be looking at. Whenever you tab out of FSX, it will pause. So I like that unticked. Therefore, when I'm not looking at FSX, if I'm focused on a different window, it will keep flying quite happily. The other thing that I've unticked is use system time for free flight. Now, probably I'm maybe similar to the rest of you guys, and I do a lot of my gaming, well, all my gaming really, in the evenings. Sometimes at weekends as well, but more often than not it's going to be in the evening time. And you might want to make a daytime flight. You know, I don't like flying in the dark all the time. I like flying in the daytime to see things. Therefore, it means you can easily set the time if that's not ticked. If you have it ticked, it's going to record whatever time you happen to be playing. Yeah, so if you're playing at 8 o'clock in the evening, that will be the time for free flight. So I untick that, and that gives you greater flexibility for time. That's basically the only couple of things I've changed on that screen. Scenery library I'm not going to touch at the moment. Now if we go into the display settings and all your various settings for graphics, etc., click on customize. Now again, this is personal to your particular setup and specification. My own PC and monitor here is set up for 920 by 1080, so I've got that particular resolution set. I've capped my frame rate at 30. I don't like it set to unlimited, and I believe from the things that I've researched and read that a frame rate of 30 is pretty much the norm and the best settings, but you know, your mileage may vary. The global texture resolution I've set at maximum. I've left the lens flare on, and advanced animations I've left those on as default. The same with filtering. I'm not going to bother with any of that. I can always tweak that a little bit later on if the graphics aren't quite up to scratch. So if we go to aircraft tab, what I'm going to, actually no, I've left all this default. I did untick tooltips, but I was thinking of another tooltips I'll show you in a second. This is the cockpit tooltip. So when you hover over, for example, I don't know, the altimeter, it will tell you that it's the altimeter you're looking at. So whatever lever or panel you happen to be hovering over, that'll tell you the name of it. So that's quite handy to have on. Scenery, again, this will be entirely dependent on whatever PC you're running, whatever specifications you've got. I'm going to play around with this setting for the time being. So I've left my detail radius at large because I like things to be in focus or displayed from a long distance away. Mesh complexity is about 3/4 level, mesh resolution at 2, text resolution all the way up at 7 centimeters. I've turned down the auto gen density a little. I've put that to normal. I think it goes to very dense, I think, by default, but I'm leaving that at normal. And scenery complexity I've pushed right up to extremely dense. Weather, I've left that entirely at default, not changed anything in that whatsoever. The airline traffic I have increased a little bit, so I've increased the airline traffic density up to about 60%. Everything else I've left pretty much at default, so we're going to click OK on that. I called it, you can save it if you want, your configuration, just in case you lose it, so I've just called that like init config. We'll just save that, overwrite that. So that's pretty much it for that. I'm just going to find the other thing about tips that I just mentioned. If I can find out where it was. Is it under controls? Nope, it's not controls. Realism. There we go. It's under the realism tab. This one here, display flying tips. That's actually ticked by default. I've unticked that. You know, for example, if you sat in your aircraft and your engines are not started, you get these annoying little pop-ups, these tips that say your engine isn't started. You know, press such and such a key to start your engines. I don't like that, so I've unticked that. Again, that's personal preference, entirely up to you. But I'm going to come back to the realism settings a little bit later on. Okay, so that's pretty much FSX configured as it is. The only thing that I've changed is on the free flight page. You can actually change your default flight, your default scenario, if you will. When you first load up FSX right from scratch, you'll get that little excuse me, the little ultralight trike aircraft, and you'll be positioned. I can't remember the airport now, but it's some like American airfield that you're positioned over. Friday Harbour, that's the one, isn't it? It positions you at Friday Harbour. So what I've done is I've changed my default aircraft to the Cessna 172, which is that one, and I've put my current location at Leeds Bradford, EGNM, because that's my favourite airport to fly from here in the UK. It's a good airport. It's actually the highest airport in, I'm never too sure whether it's England or the UK. Definitely the highest airport in England. It's something like 700 feet, I think it is, or thereabouts. So again, that's entirely your preference. You can change your default flight if you wish, or you can leave it set to the microlight and Friday Harbour. If you want to change it, simply change the values or change the parameters to whatever you want here. So change your aircraft, change your location, and then click save. When you click that, you'll be able to name the flight. Again, I've called it EGNM C172. and then you can tick this box here which says make this the default flight. When you tick that and click OK, that will be your default scenario every time you boot up FSX, so that's very useful. So that's basically got FSX configured out of the box. Yeah, there's no add-ons currently, nothing fancy, that's it. So I'm going to close down FSX right now, and what I'm going to do is to bring in the first of the add-ons that we're going to be looking at. Now personally I consider this a must-have. If you're running any kind of hardware such as flight yokes or throttle quadrants, anything like that, or if you're using any third-party add-ons, there's one called FSX, which is like a flight planner, a very complex flight planner, but that uses FSUIPC to interface with FSX. If I go to the sim market page, it tells you what it is here. FSUIPC, it's Flight Simulator Universal Inter-Process Communication. It's quite a fancy title, but I may as well just read the blurb here and tells you what it is. It says it's an add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator X, which provides an interface for other programs to read and write all sorts of pertinent data relating to the simulation, and in many ways even to control the actual process itself. It's an essential ingredient in many add-on FS programs, and in fact may well be installed on your system by any one of them or more already. For such programs you do not need to actually purchase FSUIPC. That deal for their access will often have been already done by the program makers. Now, as I say, I pretty much consider it a must-have. The reason being is that I do have the controllers. I have the flight yokes, the pedals, and the throttle quadrants, etc. Now with FSUIPC you can actually set up all of that hardware, all of those controls within that program. You don't have to rely on FSX. You don't have to rely on the FSX default settings, if you like. So basically you untick the controller option in FSX and you do it all through FSUIPC, and I think personally that it has greater accuracy. So again, this is a personal decision whether you go for it or not. I'm going to show you how to install it. I have actually downloaded the zip file already. To be honest with you, this is a brand new version of it. This one particularly was only released on November the 2nd this year, 2015. So I actually haven't got this version installed or downloaded. I had to downstall it. So all you do is you click on that. It'll download a zip file, which I've already unpacked right here. By the way, I should mention that FSUIPC, it's bare bones setting, if you like, the bare bones side of it is actually free. You don't have to pay for a license, but paying for a license will give you greater flexibility. There's a lot more you can do with it when you pay for the program, and it's about what, €28, euros, 28 euros or thereabouts. Sim Market at the moment are doing a bundle, buy two for €21.06 including VAT each. So there we go, that's the pricing of it. I say two because the other program that works hand in hand with FSUIPC is a program called WideFS. Now that's really only useful if you're running two PCs. What you can do is you can install WideFS program on your server PC, if you like, the machine that you're running Flight Sim on, and then on a second PC you can then use third-party programs such as Active Sky or FSX that I mentioned earlier. They interface then with this second PC using WideFS. So anyway, you can look into that yourselves. You can find a little bit more about that on Peter Dawson's page. The address is here at shirati.com/Dawson HTML. It tells you all about the different, it makes other programs as well, but those two you can find more details on here. So let me just bring that folder in again. This is what you'll get when you unzip the FSUIPC zip file. So you've got your actual installer, you have also got a manual. Now it is very important because if I scroll up, one of the first things, or one of the most important things it will say is here, installation. Before trying to install FSUIPC, you must have actually run FSX at least once. If you have not yet run FSX, do so first, yeah, because this is necessary because certain essential files are not created until you have done so. That's very important, yeah. So install FSX, I'm sure you probably would have done that anyway, but make sure you've installed and run it. Run FSX at least once, then you can proceed with installing FSUIPC. Installation is pretty straightforward. You do need a license file or registration details if you want to complete the payment side of it, but I'm just going to click the application to install it for now. You do have to run it as administrator, so just simply right click and choose run as administrator, and let's go through this. Now I haven't got this installed at the moment, so what you're seeing now is the actual genuine installation process for myself. It's saying okay, it's installed into FSX Steam Edition, okay. Please see the user's guide, it's in the modules folder, FSX SE modules folder. Something that this program creates, FSUIPC actually creates a folder called modules. That's not there to start with, this program creates it. So if I click OK, I'm not going to go ahead with the registration at this time. If I just click not now, because it's just the installation side of things that I'm concerned with. Yeah, the program installed correctly. What I'm going to do now is to boot up FSX again. Hopefully everything will boot up correctly. Yep, that's fine. It's now come across this latest FSUIPC DLL. That's fine. Yep, we can click run. Would you like to designate it as trusted software? Yes. Okay, we go to free flight. And let me load the flight. We'll just click on fly now. Loading terrain data. Which takes a little bit of time. I have actually been considering getting an SSD for my my game drive, but it's still a bog standard 1TB normal internal hard drive. I've not upgraded yet to SSD. Even though my operating system is on SSD, the internal drive for the games is just a standard one. Okay, there we go. That's loaded. The engines are running. Let me just turn the engines off for a minute. We don't want to leave them on. Now if you press the A key, by the way, that'll cycle through your views. So I'm just going to press A. I'm going to turn off the avionics, going to turn off the lights there, the beacon lights, turn off the batteries, and just get the key over to the off position. That's got everything off now. Basically the cockpit is what's now known as a cold and dark state. Yeah, nothing switched on. Okay, so we just go back up to there. Now if I bring up the menu, you've got a menu there called add-ons, and you'll see FSUIPC. This is what it is. So it tells you all about it there. We need to register it actually to get the full settings. So I didn't actually realise that. I thought so this is it. I thought it would actually give us the other tabs, at least to show them to start with, but it doesn't. The only way I'm going to get the other tabs is to actually put in my my registration details or the license file. So what I'm going to do, let me just cancel out of that a minute and quit FSX. Let me exit out of that. Yep. Now I have actually got a license file already. Just give me 1 second. Right. I'm going now into the FSX folder in Steam, and you'll notice here there's a modules folder. All I'm going to do, that's all the FSUIPC stuff in there. I'm just going to paste in my license file or my key file. There we go. Now let's just load up FSX again, and hopefully we'll have the full set of tabs for you to have a look at. It's a little bit quicker this time. There we go. again, just going to turn off my engines and flick the lights off, avionics master, battery and everything. Get everything switched off. There we go. Right, let me go back to the Alt menu and go to FSUIPC again. There we go. Right, that's what I wanted to show you. So this basically is the registered version of FSUIPC in all its glory. Now you can see now why I advise a registered copy, because all of these extra tabs are just simply not there with the free version. The free version is there to, as that other web page kind of explained, it's there to interface, to communicate with some third-party products, or those third-party products will actually install the free version of FSUIPC anyway. But with the paid version, once you've registered it, you get all this other good stuff. And you can configure your buttons and switches. You've got logging, all kinds of logging options, which personally I don't use. You've got key pressers, various miscellaneous settings, pause after crash for example, extend the battery life of your aircraft. You can set up all of your axes with the joysticks. You can control winds, you can control clouds, and you can even, if you've got a GPS receiver, you can even get the data to go out of FSX and into your GPS display unit, your own personal GPS unit, and some hotkeys there as well. So as you can see, very, very comprehensive, and you can probably see why I personally consider it a must-have because of the joystick, etc. Right, so what I'm going to do, let's just show you the joystick calibration. The first thing to do though is, if you do want to use this to control your own joystick, what you have to do is you have to go into controls, settings and controls, and you have to go to control axes. You basically have to disable every single axes for whatever controllers you have. Now you can see here from the list that I've got ProFlight rudder pedals, the Saitek ProFlight yoke, and the Saitek ProFlight quadrant. So I've got those three. So all Saitek equipment basically. And then you've also got your buttons and keys. You also have to disable all of your joystick column. Now, a word of advice, don't touch your keyboard column at all. Do not delete any keyboard assignments. Only delete those in the joystick column. You want to keep this one active. That's the only one you want to keep active. You can configure the point of view with FSUIPC, but it's generally recommended, and I always found that it works fine, if you keep this one active. That's the only one that you need active. So if you have got a Saitek yoke like I have, and you've got the hat switch on the yoke, keep that one active. Everything else you can get rid of. Yeah, everything else. So for example, view category button 2, get rid of it. In order to get rid of it, all you do is highlight it and click delete joystick attachment. Not delete key assignment, do not do that. Delete joystick assignment. There we go, and it's gone. Do that for anything that you see scrolling past, and the same for the control axes. If you want to do that, delete joystick assignment. Y axis, delete joystick assignment. Go all the way down and do that for each and every bit of hardware that you have. I'm going to do that now. I'm going to stop the video and come back to it when I've basically got rid of all these axes and buttons. So I'll stop it now, come back to you in a bit. See you in a second. Okay, welcome back guys. I'm back. I've now cleared all of the joystick column completely. So if we just go from the top, so my rudder pedals, if I scroll down, you'll see that nothing is in joystick column. That's completely empty. If I choose the yoke, it's empty apart from the one for the hat switch for the pan view. If you remember, I said to keep that one active. And then finally for my quadrant, my throttle quadrant, again the joystick column completely empty. So I've got rid of all of those FSX configurations for the joystick assignment. Similarly for the control axes, everything is completely removed for the hardware. Columns totally empty. So basically what I've got to do now is I now need to set up FSUIPC to replace those controls. Yeah. So for example, this is my hat switch, you'll see that the pan is still working, but if I turn my flight yoke, I'm actually turning my yoke left and right at the moment, the yoke controls in the aircraft are not moving. So everything's been removed, the configuration's been totally removed. So back to FSUIPC, and we go to joystick calibration. Okay, sorry, axis assignment. Axis assignment is the one you want to start with. So I'm going to start with the yoke. So if I move the lever to the left, yeah, we get some values there. It says joystick 3, axis X. I'm actually moving my yoke to the left, and we've got some raw values going up and down there. What I need to do is to tick the option to send direct to FSUIPC calibration, and I need to tick that, and I need to select that is ailerons. There we go. So that's got that ticked. If I now click rescan, move it to the right, you'll see it actually picks it up because we've already set the x-axis. It's the aileron. Okay, so I'm now going to push it forward. I'm going to push the yoke forward, which is now the y-axis, which is basically the elevator. So again, send direct to FSUIPC calibration, tick this box here and go down to elevator. Okay, if I now rescan and pull it back, I'm pulling the yoke back, you can see it's now recognized the elevator. So with that, that's actually the X and Y axes assigned for the yoke. So I'm now going to do the same for the pedals, starting with the rudders. Okay, so I'm going to move the left pedal forwards, which is basically going to be the left rudder. So let me just untick that because that's wrongly configured. Send direct to FSUIPC calibration, and it wants to be rudder. There we go. And rescan, the same with the right pedal. There we go, rudder, it's picked it up already. So that's the rudder sorted out. Now I'm going to do the same with the brakes. So if I rescan and hit the left toe brake, that's now the x-axis. Send direct to FSUIPC calibration, tick the box, and we want left brake, which is that one. Do the same with the right pedal. That's the y-axis, which is now the right brake. Where are you? There we go. So right rescan, left brake, right brake. So that's configured. That's the actual axes assignment configured. As you can see, that's the yoke now working, and the pedals are working as well. So we've now got movement with the controls. However, we just need to fine tune them. We need to tweak them. We need to go to calibrate them. So joystick calibration tab, and we go for the ailerons to start with. So we click the set button, move it all the way to the left, and click the set button over here. Move it all the way to the right, click the set button there. We can create a bit of a dead zone. In fact, I might do that in 1 second, but we'll leave that for the moment. For the elevator, a similar thing. Click the set button, move it forward, press the set button on the right, move the yoke all the way back, and press the set button on the left. And again, if you want to have a bit of a dead zone, we can play around with those settings in a second or so. Rudder, a similar thing. Click set, and we want the left rudder. Click set, all the way to the right rudder. Click set. And the throttle we'll do in a second. We haven't quite got that configured yet. Let's just click OK, and let's just check this. So this is we've now got this configured, but as you can see, there's very little, there is no dead zone there as such. Pedals are still working fine, so they're okay. So you can actually play around with making a dead zone if you wish. We go back to calibration, and let's just have a look at this, if I can remember how to do it. I'm going to pull it just a little to the left and click that, and then go to the right and click that. I think that's the right way around. Let me just try that. Yeah, there we go. So I'm turning, I'm going to start turning now. There we go, and now it starts turning. That's a little bit of a dead zone. The same to the right, I'm turning now, and then it turns. So we've got a little bit of a play. I'm actually turning this, you can hear it probably on the microphone, going left and right. But we've got a little bit of a dead zone, and I like that. I like a little bit of a dead zone. So that's fine. Elevators, I'm not too fussed about. They're okay, but it's left and right that I usually like a little bit of a dead zone. But that's personal preference. You can set that up how you want. You might not like a dead zone. Your mileage may vary, as they say. Okay, so that's that. We now need to set up an axis for the throttles. So I'm going to I've actually got a set of 3 levers, so 6 levers in all. I've got 2 throttle quadrants, one of which comes with the Saitek yoke. That gives you 3 levers, and then I purchased a second one, a separate standalone throttle quadrant, to give me 6 levers in all. Basically that gives me flexibility for twin engine aircraft. So I've got 2 throttles, 2 prop pitchers, and 2 mixtures, yeah, one for left and one for right. But let me just configure throttle 1. So I'm now moving the throttle lever on my first quadrant. So again, as we did with the yoke, send direct to FSUIPC calibration, and this is throttle 1 there. I'm going to do the same with the second lever, throttle 2, which is that one, and name that to throttle 2. Now if you don't have any hardware yourself, this of course is going to be entirely redundant to you. This is not going to make any sense whatsoever, but for those of you that do have controls or hardware, this is how you would configure it. You could, if you have like a joystick with analog controllers on them, then there's no reason why you couldn't set them up in a kind of similar way through here. Just set your axes up and then calibrate them. So let's just go to the calibration tab. We should now be able to set the throttle. So if I click, actually I'm not going to do the throttle, I'll tell you why. Because if we click this arrow here, you'll see that we have somewhere, here we go, separate throttles per engine. I want to be doing throttle 1 and throttle 2. So if I click throttle 1, move it all the way up to the top, and click the set button on the right, move my throttle lever all the way down, click the set button on the left, and the same for throttle 2. I'm going to move it all the way up and all the way back down and press set. Right, now if I click OK, go back to the cockpit, here is the throttle lever, yeah? Now this may or may not work. Sometimes it goes a little bit funky. But watch this lever here. I'm now going to move my lever on the throttle quadrant. There we go. That's all the way in and all the way out. All the way in, all the way out. So that one seems to be set okay. There's no movement there. It won't go any further than that, so that's fine. We now want to set up the mixture lever. So in a similar way, go back to FSUIPC. Going to go to axis assignment. I'm going to move my mixture 1 lever, which is that one there. Send it to FSUIPC for calibration, and this is mixture 1. Going to do the same for the other mixture lever. That's going to be mixture 2. We go to the calibration tab. Separate mixture controls. Yeah, this is on tab 4 of 11. So if we go to separate mixture controls, we want mixture 1. Can I move it all the way? Oh, that's strange. It's not recognizing mixer 1. Let me go back to axis assignment. Rescan. Okay, well it's there. Maybe I didn't tick it correctly. Let's just try this again. Mixture 1. Okay, rescan. Mixture 2. Okay. Let me try that one final time. There we go, it's recognized it now. Okay, back to the calibration tab and click set for mixture 1 all the way to the top. Click set, lever all the way back down, click set. And the same for mixture 2, all the way up, click set, all the way down, and click set on the left. Let's just make sure that they work correctly. Again, it's a single engine aircraft, this Cessna, so we've only got one throttle and one mixture, but this now should work. The mixture lever, there we go. I'm actually moving my Saitek throttle or Saitek lever, and you can see the mixture going in and out. So that's configured those basic controls. One thing I might want to configure here is the trim arrangement. Now on the yoke, on the Saitek yoke, there's actually a rocker switch with an up and down. So I'm going to go for buttons and switches. I'm going to press my rocker switch up, which is that one. I need to select FS control, that tick box there, and then from the drop down list I need to go to trim down, if I can find it. Where is it? Oh, actually, sorry, it's elevator trim. Elevator trim down. There we go. Elevator trim down. I want to repeat while I'm holding the rocker switch. So that's good. If I just now do the same for elevator trim up. Again, I need to tick this box, select for FS control, and then go for elevator trim up, which is that one, and I need to repeat while held. Okay, let's just try that out. Let's go back to the thing. You should see this wheel move as I move the rocker switch on my yoke. So I'm going to move it up to start with, which will trim down. Yeah, and then I'm going to move the rocker switch down, which will basically trim it up. I know that the lever's going down, it's kind of a reversal, it's a bit weird. Again, this is personal preference. You may prefer to have it trim the other way. It's entirely dependent on how you like to fly and how you like to configure the controls. For me, if I'm pressing something forward, that's going down, and if I'm pulling something back, that's going up. It's a bit like the flight yoke, yeah? You pull the flight yoke back to go up, you push it forward to go down. So I like the same with my trim control as well. So there we are, that's got the trim control set up. I think that's pretty much it for FSUIPC and hardware controls. Let me just go back into FSUIPC, see if there's anything that I've missed. Okay, so on the miscellaneous tab, we have some things that need to be adjusted. A good guide is actually, if I just bring this one in here, I'll put this in the video description. But this is actually a very good guide. It covers setting up FSUIPC. This guide is actually a couple of years old, so some of the features and functionality in the current version of FSUIPC are no longer, you'll no longer find them, if you like. Some of these things have actually been removed, but on the whole this guide is very, very good. It talks you through setting up hotkeys, the axis assignment and calibration like I've shown you already, how to set up a dead zone, all sorts of good stuff, creating user profiles, etc. It really is a comprehensive guide, so I really advise having a look at this. But what I'm interested in is the miscellaneous tab, so if I just take that off screen for a minute. Actually, I wonder if I can get away with doing it side by side, maybe, kind of. Perhaps not. It's kind of when I click on one, the other one goes. But for example, it tells us to enable disconnect elevator trim axis for autopilot. Use if you have aircraft trim assigned to an axis lever. Well, I've got it assigned to a rocker switch, but I'm still going to tick that. Enable VS sign correction, fixed control acceleration, make nav frequency increment to 50k, enable clear weather stops dynamics, enable extend battery life to set that to 20, which basically equals 30 minutes of battery life. That makes things a bit more realistic. Currently you can see it's actually on 1 at the moment, but if that's ticked and we put that to value to 20, that should give us 30 minutes battery life, which is fairly realistic. Enable smooth IAS for external programs. Keep FS clock synced to real time. That's to fix a bug, so we can tick that option as well. Where has it gone? That one there. Throttle sync, etc., etc. I'm just going to bring that off screen and just tick these boxes as it recommends. So we need to tick that one. We need to tick keep the clock synced. I don't want to use the system time for flights. Fix the control acceleration. Correct the AIS bug. I want the spike elimination as well for all the controls. We want that ticked, and we want 20 in there. And I think that's it. Throttle sync to sync. Going to leave that blank, I think, at the moment. That should be okay. One thing I did actually change was if we go to joystick calibration and the throttles, for some reason when I first set these, this value on the throttle 1 went to 512. I was finding, I went back into the cockpit and it took actually a bit of movement on the throttle to make the lever start moving, so I knew something wasn't right. So I went back and all I did is I double clicked, hang on, let me just reset throttle 2 and show you what I did. So if I click the right hand one, move the lever back, set that one, all I did is I double clicked this set, so it gives you the same value in both of these boxes. But if I click OK, go back to the throttle, now I'll show you what I mean. If I start moving throttle 1 now, you see, very, very noticeable movement. I'm moving it now. Before I was moving it and it was getting to about probably there, and then it would start moving. So now I've got complete control over the throttle. Everything's hunky-dory and the mixture still works and everything. So that, I think, just about covers the basics of getting FSX set up and installing and setting up FSUIPC as well. Obviously there are numerous other buttons on my yoke, and there are other buttons as well which we shall configure those in the next stage, I think, in the next video. In the next video I'm going to show you a program called SPAD. I don't know actually what it stands for. Let me just bring in the there is actually a new version available. If I go to here, SPAD.next, there we go. It stands for Saitek Panel Advanced Drivers Next Generation. So what it basically does is, rather than using Saitek's own drivers, which in all honesty are not that good, this provides a separate standalone application where you can control and configure and set up your Saitek multi-switch panels, your radio panels, or anything else. Any of the Saitek hardware can be controlled using SPAD. But we'll look at that in the next video. So I hope you've enjoyed this first video. Any questions, leave a comment in the box below. Thank you for watching. My name's Steeler Boy. I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye bye.